In this episode, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, the big daddy of English nuts, is going to help me correct India's English, comment on political English, and weigh in on the Hindi versus English debate. Dr. Tharoor, thank you so much for doing this.
That is the most unusual introduction I've had, but thank you.
I wanted to ask you about something which is a pet peeve of mine, which are the pronunciation and grammar errors that Indians typically make. Do you have certain ones which are your pet peeve and you'd like to correct the nation, because you are the English teacher to the nation unofficially?
No, well, the pet peeves are really pedantic ones, which I ought to outgrow. But I keep correcting my staff on two very common mistakes. One is the habit of using the word presently. This is not an Indian problem, it's a global problem. Yeah. Presently to mean now, whereas presently means soon. Yeah. So I'll be there presently is correct English. Yeah. But I'm doing this presently makes no sense, because presently does not mean I'm doing it now. Okay. It does not mean in the present or at the present or at present. Yeah. So that's one thing that I sometimes get irritated about. However, the thing about the English language is if you use a word wrongly, widely enough, that'll become an accepted usage. Right. So I think presently is now becoming an accepted usage to mean at present, even though that was never the correct meaning when I was growing up. The Americans, by the way, have a similar problem with momentarily.
Correct.
Because momentarily means for a moment, but the Americans use it to mean in a moment. Yeah. And so you can actually sort of talk about a pilot announcing in an airline that we will be airborne momentarily, and the English passenger has a heart attack because he thinks that means the plane is going to crash. He's only going to be in the air for a moment. Yeah. Anyway, so that's one example. So presently is one. The other one is importantly. Yeah. I don't think important needs a li, because important is already an adverb.
Yeah.
So it's perfectly all right to say, most important, I believe such and such and such. Or there's this and this and that, and more important, this. Importantly is superfluous, you know?
Right.
And it's an unnecessary addition. Right. Again, as I told you, I'm being a bit pedantic, so you don't have to worry about it.
What about words like revert?
Yeah, revert, and what is the other one? Yes, I shall revert to you, and the other one is, yes, please intimate me of your of your intentions or whatever. Yes.
So what is the?
These are all Victorian English, which stuck with us, but which the English stopped using in the same way.
Yeah, but I mean, my understanding of revert is to turn back into a former state, like ice reverts to water when it melts. So when people write to me that I will revert to you, I tell them you can't turn into me. Or turn back into me.
God, you are as much of a pedant as I am. Okay.
And the other one, because I'm in advertising, everything is up to 50% off, and the up to is written as one word instead of two. So that's another pet peeve that I have. But anyway, this is about...
No, actually, on all of these, I mean, revert is clearly a sort of confusion with respond.
Yeah.
Whereas another very common one, again, not just India, but everywhere, is confusing reluctant and reticent. Right. Reticent only means reluctant to speak.
Right.
It can't be used to mean generally reluctant. Right. You know, when I asked him this question, he was reticent, means he was reluctant to speak it.
Yeah.
But to say that he was reticent to take 10 steps forward or whatever is wrong, because reticent is only about speaking, and reluctant is what people mean, but they confuse the two a lot. That's a global problem, not just an Indian problem.
Right.
But it's very common in India.
Right. So there are a few words that I'm going to spell out, and because everybody gets it wrong and I want them to hear the correct. So this is about pronunciation. So the first word is pronunciation. What is the right and the wrong way of saying this word?
Pronunciation is correct.
Yeah, and not pronunciation.
Not pronunciation, yes. No, pronunciation. And it's actually linked to enunciation.
Right.
Which is to speak clearly.
Yeah.
And it's not linked to pronoun, which is where the confusion comes from.
Yes. And what about ASTHMA?
Asthma.
Yeah. So asthma and not asthma.
No, exactly.
Said. And EPITOME.
Epitome.
Epitome and not epitome.
That's right.
And not hyperbole, but hyperbole.
Hyperbole.
Yes. And just one more. PLUMBER.
Plumber.
Plumber and not plumber. So,
Though these are trivial mistakes, my dear English nut.
yeah, but I mean, they're the most common ones. I'm just.
So an English plumber with an English nut and screw and bolt.
What about the VW confusion? What is your take on it?
No, that's actually partly because in most Indian languages there isn't a difference.
Right.
And therefore people who are comfortable in Indian languages often find themselves eliding one or the other.
Yeah.
So it's actually so common a mistake that, it's almost embarrassing to point it out.
Yeah.
But in India, you might say adverb. Instead of say adverb, you might say adverb, etc.
So I had a teacher who said, bite your V's and kiss your W's. So
that's an interesting way of putting it.
So
yes.
you use your upper teeth on your lower lip and say very, and
That's right.
And then make the duck face, which is one of the millennial words. Duck
Wolf.
face, wolf. Yeah. So that's it. Okay, now I'm going to...
Very good. I like that. Bite your V's and kiss your W's.
W's.
Good. A lesson to teach my grandson one day.
Right. George Orwell talked about doublespeak.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he talked about the violence of the British, and which they used the term pacification when they were burning villages and killing people, and preemptive strike, which is actually an unprovoked attack. So, are there any other words like that which you come across in political discourse?
No, there's lots. I mean, Orwell actually gave us some very, very important terms and concepts from 1984, which didn't come true really in 1984, but seem to be in danger of coming true today as China becomes a surveillance state, as modern technology really makes it possible to intrude into the intimate thoughts and opinions of every citizen of your country. And therefore the possibility that by doing that, you actually start getting into doublethink, where you force people to think at one level for themselves, another level for what the state is supposed to think you're thinking.
Right.
All of that it's an Orwellian idea, which honestly I fear could be becoming a reality in some parts of the country. He had this thing where first thing in the morning when you woke up, Big Brother was watching what you were doing. Right. Technology didn't exist for that when he wrote the book in 1948. It exists today. So it's a very, very important book in that way to foretell our times. But doublespeak, doublethink, all of that is there. Yeah, pacification is a term from the American Vietnam War, where they essentially, when they said pacification, they meant annihilation.
Right.
You wipe out the village, that means you pacified it.
Right.
And one American official testifying in the US Congress said, it is sometimes necessary to eliminate a village in order to pacify it. Really, terrifyingly chilling use of language. No, just like, words like friendly fire and collateral damage are the same thing.
Yes.
These are euphemisms.
Right.
To say we screwed up and killed the wrong people on our own side,
yes,
you call them friendly fire.
Friendly fire.
Or you kill civilians when you're trying to bomb military, and you say collateral damage. Such phrases are likely to be condemned as words that honestly do the English language in many ways a disservice. But don't forget, there's also doublespeak and not just doublethink. And the thing about doublespeak is that you say one thing and you mean something else. And it's again typical of a lot of political discourse. Yeah. Today we're having people talking about post-truth. What is post-truth except a lie?
Right. Is it like, and then there's fake news.
Fake news, which is, of course, not news at all. It's again, lies. Right. So, language can be used to conceal all sorts of evil things, and we should not forget that.
Is there something that you would like to say about the English language, or the way Indians speak English, or anything else relating to English or English in India?
No, I just say, people should lighten up a bit. I mean, unfortunately, too many people get intimidated by the language, start mugging up dictionaries. Honestly, that's utterly pointless to my mind. To my mind, what happens with the language is you use it to communicate, you use it to express ideas, you use it to give and gain pleasure. If all of that is not happening, then you don't need it. Right. So to my mind, if you're coming across words in books that you don't know, read more books. You'll find out what they mean. Don't mug up dictionaries.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Doctor. Catch one English nut chatting with another.
He's the
The
English nut.
nut.
Bye for now.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of The English Nut with Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Watch all episodes of Dr. Shashi Tharoor chatting with me about the English language. Do subscribe to The English Nut on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. From one English nut to another, thank you.